Welcome to Dimensional Shift, where we explore and actively deprogram ourselves, seek the truth of reality through expanding our perceptions, and focus on full remembrance of our true selves. As we begin to connect to our true selves, we will also see the truth of this illusory reality and the way it controls us through our manipulated perceptions. As soon as we fully remember our true selves, we will also see the enemy for what it is and how to rebalance the system by freeing ourselves and assisting others to do the same, creating a domino effect into the evolution of human consciousness. Welcome to Season 2 of Dimensional Shift. I apologize for my sudden disappearance. The season break was totally unplanned. I had some technical difficulties back in May with my editing software, and I actually lost all my past episodes, so hopefully nothing ever has to get redone. Those ideas will just have to be either there or not there. Then after that, I ended up with COVID, so that was fun. I may or may not do an episode on that and the weird stuff that's involved with that, as well as the vaccines. After that, I kind of just fell apart in a way, went into self-destruct mode, which is not unusual for us, really, to be honest. Slowly pulling myself out of that. I knew May was going to be a hard month for everyone as a collective, but I was hoping I was going to be able to stay above it. However, was not very successful, to be honest. It is what it is. I am now traveling. I left home sometime toward the end of May or early June, and I was gone for like 2 days. And I had gone over to my sister's, which was kind of a bad move to begin with, but ended up going back home for a couple of weeks, and I have sat back off. I am currently in Illinois, somewhere, at a library. My previous studio quality sound, because it's not done in a studio. I literally use an iPhone and headphones to record this. But the sound may not be quite as good in the future, as I will be moving around and recording in different locations. Right now I'm at a library. There's a little bit of street noise, but I am in a quiet study room, so I'm hoping that I'll be able to find different places to record in that won't be too distracting. So the past, 6 weeks or so has been kind of like watching a train wreck, not being able to stop it, and also being in that train wreck and not being able to get out. Like I said, I knew May was going to be a difficult month for a lot of people, and it started out so subtle that I didn't notice myself kind of slipping back into old habits and loops and going back down a path that I had hoped I wouldn't go down again. Has been difficult to pull myself back up and also reflect on what I've gone through these past 6 weeks. The week before I got COVID, I had quit my job and I was still at home, but I was doing my own thing during the day, going out and walking a lot and doing a lot of meditation and starting to write the book that I'm hoping will get written this summer, all that kind of stuff. And then I got COVID, and suddenly all of my stamina was gone, and while I didn't get very sick physically, it did affect me where I stopped meditating. I was too ill to focus on anything, and I slept all the time, and so I wasn't walking, and then suddenly the old patterns were back, and it just threw me way off course, unfortunately. And a lot of you have reached out to me. I'm so thankful that people have reached out and said, hey, are you okay? What happened to the podcasts? Are there going to be more? And I am so grateful that you all have reached out like that, because for a long time, and still to some extent, I feel like I'm just talking into the void, and I get very little actual feedback on any of the episodes. I see statistics on my dashboard for my hosting, but there's no conversation. I literally feel like I just sit here and talk to myself, and, hopefully someone listens and maybe joins the Discord, and then maybe I'll be able to converse a little bit. But complete random strangers have reached out and said, are you going to do more episodes? And so I'm very grateful to all of you who have done that. And it's really kind of got me back on track, just to know that whatever ramblings I do on here, maybe are making a difference. And at least if it's just to let you know that you're not alone and things really suck right now, and unfortunately they're going to get worse. So going back to this idea of watching a train wreck happen and also being in the train wreck and not being able to do anything about it. This is kind of what I feel like the true self is, in a way. Let me explain. Actually, it was right after I started getting over COVID, I had this experience. And some that I've explained it to have said, oh, that was ego death. And I'm not sure that that's exactly what it was. So what happened was I was in a really deep meditation. I went into basically a trance for about 5 hours, and I had several revelations. But the first one was this feeling of zooming out. And if you want to think of like zooming out on a cosmic level where I could see the entire universe and existence and whatever. And so I was almost like becoming one with source in a way. That's kind of how I would describe it. Because there was no I am. I was very much in the observer state, but it was almost beyond the observer state. And there was no I am. There was no knowledge of my existence, except there was only knowledge of my existence. And there was no true individualization. I literally felt one with everything. I know this is what all the great spiritual teachers talk about. Like, it's a thing, but until you experience it, you can talk about it and it doesn't make any sense. So this is why people say it was ego death, because I had no individualization. It was just is. It was beyond I am, and it was just is. And it was a very, very profound experience. And since then, I've been trying to understand exactly what happened, exactly who I was or where I was or what had happened, really. And I've kind of come to the conclusion that that's part of the true self. One of my friends talks about it being somewhere between I am and the I am not. And that's kind of how it felt. I had an awareness of being a fractal of what I had become at that moment, where being one with source. I had the knowledge that I still existed somewhere, but I had expanded beyond that. I feel like the true self that we can experience here on Earth is somewhere between that knowing that we are source, we are one with source, we are one with everything, but also keeping our individualization, keeping our individual self. It's like a balance. It's like walking a tightrope. And so it goes back to, why are we here? How are we individuals at all? Why are we not just always one? Why are we not just always source? I think it comes back to the law of mentalism in a way. So in alchemy, the law of mentalism is that all is happening in the mind of God. And that, in a way, you could say that we are thought forms of God. Within Source's mind, we are just thought forms. And our purpose is to solve problems. So you could say that Source is playing a giant chess game in its mind, and it's trying to understand how to solve the problem. And you could say that the problem is entropy, the problem is the archons, the problem is the imbalances in the system. And we are here on the opposing side to figure out why this has happened, how we can prevent it in the future. And underneath all of that, in a larger way, Source is trying to understand itself just as we do. So then that begs the question, is there a source beyond that our source is just a thought form of trying to figure itself out? Like, it's just fractals everywhere. But you can say that knowledge is knowing that you should brush your teeth. Wisdom is brushing your teeth. Experience is a differentiation. So if Source knows all, then we are the experience. And just as we say that you can know something spiritual, like I was talking about being one with Source, you can know that that's a thing, but until you experience it, you don't have the wisdom. And so Source knows all, we are the experience, and we are moving that into wisdom. The true self, from our perspective, being a fractal of Source, is accepting knowledge from Source and experiencing it, which allows it to move to wisdom. So in this way, we are the experience of Source's knowledge so that Source can understand the puzzle or solve the problem. It can feel like a little bit of a sting to our ego because we want to maintain that we are more important than just a thought form in Source's mind solving a problem. But then you have to remember where the ego comes from. Wisdom is the outcome, and evolution is the goal. We are here so that Source can understand what's going on in the system and then can make a choice based on wisdom. There's a very fine line between knowing that you are Source, you are one with Source, and you are one with everything, and keeping your individuality. And so many spiritual practices focus on becoming one with everything. But I think we can lose sight of what makes us unique when we focus on we are all one and we are all the same. There's a reason that we have our characteristics in our certain alignment, in our certain strengths, and our certain talents, and we've gone through the experiences that we've gone through in a certain way to create an outcome that we currently are. It's important to remember that our struggle has led us here, and though our struggle has been unfair, we can learn from it, and we can use the things that we have struggled through to push back. Suffering right now doesn't seem to be an option, but what we do with the suffering is. And while these past 6 weeks have been very difficult, I'm choosing to learn from them and evolve from them. And I think that's what's important, is that we keep moving forward and we keep evolving, because the only other option is entropy, and we all know what happens with entropy. So there's a really great quote that I'd like to end with. It's from a movie called Mind Gamers. It was on Netflix. It's not that great of a movie, although it does reveal some agendas that most people are not aware of. At the very, very end, it has a quote. It's just written on the screen, and it says, "The truth can't be told. It has to be learned." So Source has the knowledge. We have the experience. Together it leads to wisdom. If you found this episode helpful or insightful, please share it with a friend and leave a review or comment. Make sure to subscribe so you never miss an episode. I host twice weekly open discussions on the podcast topic on our Discord server. If you'd like to join, head to dimensionalshifter.com/Discord. If you're on Reddit, come join the subreddit r/dimensionalshifters or send me a DM. My username is dimensionalshifter. Keep deprogramming, keep connecting, keep listening to your intuition. This is it. This is what we've been searching for our whole lives. Connection to our true selves.